We're now going to turn to the work taking place at the Centers of Excellence across Africa, Europe, and Asia. Joining us, and I'm probably going to mispronounce other people's names, I'm just warning everyone. Joining us, we have Reginald Anand, a lecturer and public health nutritionist at Kwame Nkrumah University. Next is Andale Amare, a senior researcher of food and nutrition sciences at the Ethiopian Public Health Institute. Robert Hall is a professor at Wageningen University, and Nadine Sri-Shamang is the Deputy Director of Collaboration Networks and Academic Services at Mahidol University. Please give them a round of applause for joining us. Hi, how are you? Wonderful to see you all. Thank you so much for being here. So, Reginald, if you could start us off, that would be great.
Yeah, thank you very much. So, I'm Reginald Anand. I come from Ghana. So Ghana is a part of the low and middle income countries, and then the low and middle income countries are facing what we call the double burden of malnutrition, where there's both undernutrition among children and women and micronutrient deficiencies, but we also have overweight and obesity. So the current demographic and health survey showed 1 in 2 women are either overweight and obese, and that's really big. And so we have so many crops that are indigenous to West Africa and Central Africa that we don't know what they consume, what they contain, and their composition. We think they are healthy, but they have not been analyzed. And one of the things that we are doing at the Center of Excellence is focusing on crops of indigenous to West and Central Africa. And we're going to analyze their biochemical composition. So if you look on the board there, that's just for legumes. There's so many of them, so different types and shapes and sizes and colors. And we think that they are healthier than the influx of all these westernized diets that are making people overweight and obese. And so we're analyzing these crops across the West and Central Africa sub-region, which are more than 2,000, but starting with legumes and others. And we also have wild fruits, shea nuts, baobab, and so on and so forth that are consumed widely, but we don't know what they have. And so that is one of the things we're going to do. We are collecting and collating crops from the different parts of West and Central Africa, 24 countries, and we're going to analyze them for their biochemical composition, which is the primary work of our Center of Excellence. But we also have exciting demonstration projects that we are engaged in, and the first one I want to mention is the soil health project, which Gina spoke about earlier on. And for the first time, we're going to look at the interlinkages between soil properties, food quality, and also human health. And you see on the left side down the picture there, we've been in the field already to collect soil samples from farms and also crop samples from those same farms, and then human samples of blood and fecal from households consuming crops that are grown on these soils. And for the first time, because of the PTFI technology, we'll be able to see whether the chemicals that are in the soil, some of them include the pesticides and then the weedicides that are used for agriculture, end up also in the crop and also end up in the human system. So we'll be able to link the association or the interlinkages between soil health, food quality, and also human health. And we are happy that CRAVE is funding this demonstration project for us to do this groundbreaking research. Then the final one I want to mention is the work that our Good Food fellows are doing through the Food EDU program. We have 7 fellows, and we are looking at the factors or the determinants of quality of crops across the value chain. So from growing through processing, transportation, and until it ends on the table. And we have 7 fellows that are taking different aspects of this project, but I want to just emphasize on one of them. So, and this is very interdisciplinary. For the first time, we're not working in silos. We have a sociologist, so a student doing Master of Sociology on the team doing food work, and he's going to look at the socio-cultural attachments that people have to with food, and you know, so you see in the picture that people have all sort of sociocultural beliefs and taboos and do's and don'ts related to different types of foods. And we have a feeling that those people, we don't know them, we don't look at them, and we usually just go and pick the food and then do things with them. But for the first time, we're going to look at that and then see these sociocultural attachments and religious attachments to different types of crops.
That's great. That's really wonderful.
And see whether, of course, that is also one of the determinants of the quality of this crop.
Very cool.
This is where I want to end for now. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Please give him a round of applause. Andale, I hope you can go next and talk about your work at the Ethiopian Public Health Institute.
Thank you so much, Danny, for having me. This is an honor for me to be here. I'm excited to talk about the work we are doing, a little bit about the history that the nation has gone through in developing the food composition table. It started in 1969, and since then, almost 4 food composition tables were already developed. And in all these food for composition tables, the breadth and the depth of the food items, as well as the parameters analyzed, were totally different. It all depends on the nutritional information that we have. And since 2019, we started updating this, the last version of the Ethiopian food composition table. It's almost over 20 years that we didn't update. So we are engaged with FEO, with the support from the Gates Foundation, to work on updating the Ethiopian food composition table. So in the previous versions of the food composition table, the good thing is just all the versions considered primary data generation. Although it is very expensive, it is high quality data generated, so that's interesting. In the current version, because the diversity of the food is very wide, so we considered 2 ways of generating data, the primary as well as the secondary way of generating data. So for the analytical data generation, we considered about 100 plus food items for analyzing almost 50 plus parameters. And this is really an interesting work where we considered some of our indigenous crops like teff and teff-based products, as well as root tubers like insect and other legumes. So this is really an interesting work that we're about to conclude in the next 2 months or 2 or 3 months. So we wanted to build on this effort with the PTFI omics techniques, ionomics and fatty acid panel, to explore those uncovered food items as well as the different parameters we didn't touch upon in the previous activities. So as part of this effort, we have a demonstration project where we fingerprint selected VAX opportunity crop. This VAX is an initiative led by the U.S. State Department, the African Union, as well as FEO, where, of course, Rockefeller Foundation is also playing a key role in that regard. So we identified about 4 VAX initiative crops like teff, finger millet, and barley, where we have almost 50 plus varieties of teff and barley. As you might know, Ethiopia is, a center of diversity, especially for barley, and teff is an indigenous crop for us, so we are considering to fingerprint this. Moreover, we are also considering moringa, which is very well known in the Eastern African region, the Stenopitala variety. So we have about 50 accessions to be considered to fingerprint using PTFI omics and non-PTFI method. Another important work that we're working is identifying the botanical origins of honey, which is a high-value commodity, exportable commodity. So this is really interesting. We considered about 8 botanical origins, so we will fingerprint using omics and non-omics techniques. Apart from this, we are also engaged in the Good Food Fellowship project, where the fellows are identified from 6 different institutions, including EPHI. So they do valorize the underutilized crops. These are actually the vax and non-vax crops. So they started with exploring the indigenous knowledge, the wisdom, the knowledge from the community, with the crop, starting from the cropping exercise, and again the food waste, including the processing and the cooking method. All this information will be collected, and they will brought all this information to the lab. They will generate data for that, and at the end of the day, they will also develop innovative product out of these indigenous resources. Finally, the knowledge will also be shared back to the community, because that is what we want, and it will be popularized to the community. And some of them, if we find valuable, we will also link them to small and medium enterprises to make it scalable. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. That's very exciting. And thank you for shining a spotlight on that indigenous knowledge and those traditional crops. Robert, you're up next.
Thank you, Danny. Yes, so my name is Robert Hall. I'm representing the European Center of Excellence. So together with Edith Veskens, who some of you know as Professor of Human Nutrition in Wageningen, and we are running the European Hub. And I've probably chosen the simplest slide of everybody, and I want to apologize for that.
No.
But it does represent my 5 favorite things. The first is, of course, science. The second is food. The third is history of art, which is my big hobby. And the fourth is white asparagus, which is the only semi-exotic crop I could think of for a European crop, compared to all my fellow centers of excellence and our amazing stuff. Fifth favorite thing, of course, is this project, Periodic Table of Food Initiative, which I think is, quite literally, is the most exciting project I've been involved with in 40 years of research. And I think it's the project with the most potential. So in Wageningen, we will actually be doing 3 basic things. Firstly, we are hoping to expand the methodology somewhat to also include the volatile components, which are at the moment missing. And of course, as you know, when you talk about food quality, volatiles are almost central in terms of good quality, but also bad quality. And so we're hoping to be able to set up that technology so it can be included in the basic methodology program. The second thing we're involved with is a demonstration project, which is related to proteomics. It's actually directly funded by the Rockefeller Foundation, but we will be using all the technologies coming from PTFI to do the analyses. And that's related to a very important component of the PTFI project, which is that around the central core of developing and populating the database, it was already thought right at the start that we need to validate and we need to demonstrate the added value of this database by doing additional projects showing how, for example, in our case, vegan foods might influence human physiology. So we have a project where we have 42 different vegan foods which have been used in a human population study. And Edith's group will be looking at the serum of these people to see if their serum components are different, and certainly different compared to a normal non-vegan protein diet. And we shall, in our lab, do the metabolomics analysis of all these foods, and these foods then will enter the database as a very strong set of vegan materials. So we're talking quite diverse materials, not just things typical of soya, so as tempeh and tofu, but also vegetarian, vegan chocolate, vegan cheese, vegan milk, which are all on the market right now. So we will be doing that. And the reason for that is that we have to realize that there's a great dynamics between human and food, and that we respond to our food in many different ways. And that's genetically determined, it's also environmentally determined. But as we haven't had any results yet for this project to show how, in a simple way how that can be illustrated, we come to the white asparagus, which is my favorite vegetable. It's only grown for a very short, or harvested for a very short period of time. We're right in the middle of production right now. I'm missing a week of eating asparagus coming here. But as many of you know, even if it's white or green asparagus, when you eat it, it does something to the human body, which you might notice if you go to the restroom. So maybe do a quick straw poll. We've got a couple of seconds left. How many people here have eaten asparagus and have noticed that when they go to the bathroom, that their urine is actually quite smelly? Quite a lot. Do we also have people who've eaten asparagus and don't make a smelly urine? One person. I might have some news for you, because it's well known that the vast majority of people eating asparagus contains a lot of sulfur compounds. You see, a major compound is asparagosic acid. It's almost unique to asparagus. We don't like it. We start breaking down these sulfur products very, very quickly when they enter the body. So even if you go 5 minutes after eating asparagus, you go to the toilet, you'll notice it already. It breaks down into a couple of these compounds. One of them is, I always forget the names, dimethyl sulfide and methanethiol, which are very smelly sulfur-containing compounds. And some people think that they don't make these compounds, but actually in the majority of cases, they think they don't because they don't have the receptor in their nose to be able to smell them. So maybe you should, next time you go to the toilet, maybe you should put someone next door just to check. Because our bodies really respond in very different ways to food, and that's genetically determined. It's known that the receptor has a single mutation, or just one amino acid is different, and it no longer is able to detect these horrible sulfur compounds.
Robert, fantastic presentation. Thank you so much. Nadine, I get to end with you.
Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nadine. I'm from Thailand, Mahidol University. As you can see, I'm probably wearing the thickest jacket compared to others because I came from a very humid and warm country. So yeah, first I'd like to thank you for having me here, and also for Roy and John. The journey I came here was like John sending out an email asking that we open for the calls of Center of Excellence, whether you want to be in. And yeah, so it took us about a day, and then we developed an application and sent it to John. So I'd like first want to thank Rockefeller for these opportunities. Their mindset is like, we are going, are you going with us? So that's the hand that they're giving to us. I feel very appreciated and so grateful for all of them and all the teams that we're working with today. So first I'd like to thank Rockefeller and especially Roy to initiate this project, and that's very valuable to us, and thank you for the opportunity that you're giving us. So therefore, I heard about a lot about Rockefeller, but now I'm in the building. So I'm so grateful. Thank you very much. So first, the story I'd like to share with you today is a project about mushroom. As you can see from the slides, that from all of you, most of you might think the forest is just the forest, but then the pictures for us, the forest is actually a supermarket for us. So for the village, mushroom is actually a very important diet source for villages and also forest people. And I also was born in that area. So it's actually the place of food starts. My ancestor, or even my parents, always tell me that if you need mushroom, you have to preserve the forest. And if you want to eat fish, you have to preserve the rivers. So therefore, we live very closely with the forestry and also the environment. We are very different from urbanized areas, so we don't actually grow them, but we actually preserve the area that they be able to preserve the food. So talking about mushroom, there's a lot of significance that mushroom can contribute in terms of medicinal significance, ecological significance, and also medicinal significance. And I believe that all of you heard about mushroom have a lot of medicinal properties, but the abundance and also diversity of mushroom has been threatened recently by the climate change and also to the degradations. It could be from unintended or intended of human activities. Document the traditional knowledge and also the utilizations of mushroom. So just make sure that it's not gone extinct or it's not gone away with most of the traditional belief that was being stored and collected by the older or the elderly. So that's the only thing that they do. In addition to that, if you look at the mushroom that I show you, these three mushrooms they believe to have cancer prevention properties, hypertension or cardiovascular property. That was our belief in the villages. But however, we never be able to prove that whether these mushrooms really have that property. It's just our beliefs. So here's PTFI coming to play. So the PTFI, by using the standard method that we are onboarding ionomics and metabolomics, the method that we use be able to enable us to actually identify the biomolecules that actually could present in that mushroom and then can link to its medicinal properties. So therefore that these knowledge or the transformations of the knowledge can actually be transferred to the villages or to the peoples that maybe they unintentionally destroy the forest, so they see the value of how they could preserve the forest. In addition to that, by preserving the forest, it also be able to preserve those mushrooms, which is the main food source of the villages and also the forest people. In addition to that, by understanding these biomolecules, we be able to restore the mushroom and also to maintain nutritional security and food security for the villages as well. So these are the stories that I like to share about my mushroom. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nadine. I love that you're focused on, and the PTFI in general is really focused on transferring that knowledge, or at least trying to in these initial sort of endeavors. I want to congratulate all 9 centers of excellence for the incredible research that they're doing. Please give them a huge round of applause.